Day 9 was a wild one in the criminal case against Sean Combs. The prosecution called rapper Kid Cudi to the stand, and he said Diddy was like some sort of Marvel supervillain when they finally came face to face. In just a moment, my legal experts and court insiders will break down what he and 4 other witnesses told the jury today alone, and if any of it is advancing the prosecution's racketeering case. The big bombshells? Kid Cudi said that he believes Diddy broke into his Hollywood home and was behind the torching of his Porsche after finding out that Cudi was dating Cassie Ventura. A makeup artist who worked for Diddy and Cassie testified that she saw signs of abuse and let Cassie stay in her own home after one violent encounter. And the manager of a hotel in Beverly Hills revealed records showing Diddy routinely trashed his hotel rooms. Now, about that Kid Cudi testimony, it was fiery, figuratively and, of course, literally. He told the court that he started dating Cassie around 2011, and in December of that year, Cassie told him Diddy had found out about us. The same day, he said that he got a call from a Diddy employee who told him that Diddy was at his house. So Cudi, he went home, and he called Diddy on the way. He said it went something like this. I said, MFer, you in my house? And he was like, what's up? I was like, MF, are you in my house? And he said, I just want to talk to you. I was like, I'm on my way over right now. He was like, I'm here. Now, when Cudi got home, no one actually was there. But he said his security cameras had been moved, angled away from where they were originally pointed before he left his home. Gifts from Chanel that he had for his family on the kitchen counter, they had been opened. And his dog, who normally roamed free around the house, was suddenly locked in the bathroom. Now, you fast forward to January 2012, Cudi testified that this happened. His dog watcher called to tell him that his Porsche was on fire. The jury, well, they saw these images. And Cudi said it looked like the top had been cut open and a Molotov cocktail was dropped inside. The prosecutor asked, what was your reaction to your car being set on fire? Cudi said, what the F? Now, he testified he met with Diddy at a members-only club the next day. He walked into the room, Diddy was alone, and he said he saw this. It was one wall was all windows, and Sean Combs was standing there staring out the window with his hands behind his back like a Marvel supervillain. They ended up talking about Cudi's relationship with Cassie and how neither of them seemed to know that the other was actually dating her at the same time. Diddy denied any involvement in blowing up his car or setting it on flame. Now, the witness called after Kid Cudi is someone I've actually spoken with on this very show, makeup artist Myla Morales, who worked for Diddy and Cassie. Now, she testified about an incident at a hotel in 2010 where she saw Cassie right after Diddy had beaten her up. Well, what she told the jury matches what she told me last year during her first interview.
Once she came out of the room, she was badly, beaten.
Oh my God! What did her physical appearance look like?
I mean, it was knots on her head, black eye, busted lip, but a lot of knots all over her head.
Morales said that she let Cassie stay at her home for a few days after that. Then came a hotel manager in Beverly Hills. Told you it was a packed day in the courtroom. The jury saw notes from Diddy's record at the hotel, and one said this: always spills candle wax on everything and uses excessive amounts of oil. Placed the room out of order upon departure for deep cleaning. Leading us off tonight is CNN's Kara Scannell, who has been in court every day of this trial. Kara, despite Kid Cudi indicating that Diddy was behind the Molotov cocktail that he says set fire to his Porsche, he also noted he had found peace with an apology that he received from Diddy a few years later. What happened?
Yeah, so after the Molotov cocktail incident, Kid Cudi said that he reached out to Combs, and because Combs had been trying to get in contact with him and he wanted to settle things. So he said that they agreed to meet at the Soho house. This was in January of 2012. And he said he walked into the room and Combs was standing in front of glass windows with his hands behind his back, which Kid Cudi said made him look like a Marvel superhero villain. And he said that he then had this meeting with him where they discussed Ventura, them dating, and he said that they shook hands at the end, and he said to Combs in that moment, "What about my car?" And Combs said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And so Kid Cudi testified that he thought Combs was lying. And then it was 3 years later, in 2015, he runs into Combs at the Soho house. He said Combs is there with his daughter, and he pulls him aside and he says, "I apologize for everything that went on." And so Kid Cudi said that he made peace with that because he didn't think he would even get any kind of apology, and he just moved on. So after his testimony today, he went to Instagram and he posted a story thanking people for supporting him.
I just want to say thank you so much, man. People have been hitting me up the past week, just checking in, and even today, and it really means a lot to me, man. This is a stressful situation. I'm glad it's behind me.
So that's what his last message was to his fans. He wasn't on the stand that long, but certainly something that the prosecution thought would be important for their racketeering conspiracy part of this case. Laura?
Hearing him testify in person was really something. I think everyone was waiting to figure out what he would contribute to the overall prosecution's case. He is a prosecution witness. He was crossed by the defense. But one of the things that they were able to get during that cross-examination from Diddy's defense counsel, he described in court feeling played by Cassie, that she, one, was actually dating him while dating Cudi. Also, that she returned to him and was back together with him during that Soho meeting, and that she had also played Diddy. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so this was during cross-examination. The lawyer for Combs, Brian Steele, is asking Kid Cudi about his relationship with Ventura and saying, you were in communication with her basically every day in some form or another for most of 2011. And Kid Cudi says, yes, they were. They only started kind of getting romantically dating later, but they had this relationship. And his understanding from Ventura was that she was no longer involved with Combs. So then Brian Steele says to him, the person who played you is the same person who played Sean. It's Miss Ventura, true? And Kid Cudi says, true. And, this all goes to part of Combs's defense, which is that Cassie Ventura was not coerced or controlled by Combs, that she was making her own decisions. And so this is something that his team is going to seize on to show that she was involved with someone else. She could have left this relationship, but she went back to Combs. Of course, the prosecution has a different theory, but this testimony was something that they did try to jump on today.
Did Kid Cudi and Diddy interact at all?
It's interesting. Kid Cudi walked into the courtroom. It was kind of a moment because everyone was waiting for him. His name has been discussed for days. He's wearing a leather jacket. He's got a dangling earring. He walks down the center aisle. There's rows on both sides. And Combs is facing forward. He doesn't see him. And then when Cudi crosses kind of this threshold, you see Combs look over to him, but at that point there was no eye contact because Kid Cudi had already passed. When Kid Cudi was on the witness stand, most of his attention was really focused on the lawyers asking him the questions. I didn't see him really make any effort to make eye contact with Combs. And then when he was leaving the witness stand, Combs seemed involved in talking to his attorneys, so it didn't seem like there was any interaction between these two former boyfriends of Ventura.
Kara Scannell, thank you so much. With me now, my all-star legal panel. I have former AUSA Gene Rossi, trial attorney and legal analyst Monique Presley, who's represented Bill Cosby in the past, and former federal prosecutor Elise Adamson, also here. Let's unpack this all. Elise, let me begin with you. Listen, having Kid Cudi testify, everyone was leaning in. They were very much engaged. It talked about his Porsche being set on fire, this love triangle that Diddy and Cudi were unaware of, apparently. But does it move the needle on the RICO racketeering case?
Laura, I think it absolutely does, because if you read in the indictment, the arson is one of the predicate offenses for the racketeering activities that the government must prove. And that's a crime that has to have been committed at the direction of this corrupt enterprise. And that's what they were getting at this arson. And so they were laying a very strong foundation. The defense on cross, well, they tried to make it seem like Kid Cudi had no idea who had blown up his car, and that's true, he wasn't there. But they completely ignored the fact that Cassie had just testified that Sean Combs has in fact threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car. And so there is that link there that prosecutors drew out very early, and I think that was a huge score for the prosecution.